As I promised, a guy in a suit. Usually that's how I say, coming up next, we're going to speak to a guy in a suit. It's generally no one interesting, but as it turns out, we are going to speak to someone interesting today. This is John Keenan. John, tell me what you're running for, because politics is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8th most important topic that is going on in my life right now. We'll take 8th. It might be second by the time we're done.
That's the plan. Okay.
We're going to strive for 2.
For the moment.
Let's strive for second place. Right? Is there anything better?
We're going to strive to be number 2.
Yes.
Because in my business, that really doesn't work.
That's not going to work for you.
That's right.
No, but in my business, are you kidding?
True. That's
2 through 27 is that's your sweet spot.
I get it.
Okay.
So I'm running for Congress, United States Congress.
Like the Congress.
The Congress.
Right?
You know, it's amazing how many people say you're running for Congress and they're like, well, the state? I was like, no, Congress, like the federal government, America.
Right,
United
like
States
the
America.
big deal, the big deal, the big kahuna.
Right. So I'm running for Congress. So the whole idea is that it's really kind of a screwed up world out there. People are really angry and frustrated, and they're really liking hating right now.
Yeah.
You know, people are loving to hate, and so, you know, I'm thinking that's not really excellent. That's not good, and I don't believe that. And so I've done a lot of things that are very controversial in terms of my jobs, and a lot of angry people. And I said, what's the most hated body in America? And Congress came up first on the list, not even second. Not even second.
Get out of here, John.
And so I got to go with that first place thing, and I jumped into a congressional race, and now I'm running for Congress.
I got to tell you this. So, good and bad. Good in that if you're going to run for Congress and you want people to pay attention, I would say this is the year to do it, right? So I don't think in recent memory there has ever been a year where more people who are outside of the political realm have ever grasped onto the stories and the races and primaries and finally understanding what a caucus is. I mean, we've been talking about caucuses forever. I never even knew what a caucus was until I broke it down for me.
That's really interesting. You're right.
Every night I'm watching MSNBC like it's going out of style, and I can't get enough. Right. I'm watching debates. I'm watching primary nights, hours and hours of coverage. You want someone like me to be involved.
That's right.
Angry or not angry, that's what you want, right?
That's true, right? The goal of the political process to engage people, get people into the process to be inclusive. The other side of that is, you know, what we call populist engagement. You know, when people are getting involved because they're angry, and that's good. Whatever gets you to pay attention, right? So that's what you're saying. So you're interested, you're following it, but it's reality TV a little bit, but it's also our country, but it's also important. But people are getting involved for different reasons. Some people are getting involved because they're really not happy with what's going on in the world. And so they're using this as a vehicle to just express their hate and frustration. It's positive if they come around and say, wait a second, okay, well, now that I'm paying attention, now that I've learned what a caucus is, now that I understand that it's not just about making fun of everybody and mocking people and having this kind of belligerent discussion about what's going on in the world, some of this stuff is really important. Some of this stuff really affects me, right? If they change the Supreme Court and I can't, you know, and Planned Parenthood disappears and you know, there's no such thing as an abortion in our country anymore, and we're going to start deporting tens of millions of people or tens of thousands of people, you know, your neighbors. All of a sudden, this is real, and there's people talking about doing this, and this is how wars are started. This is how countries collapse on each other. So the stakes are pretty high, but it starts with people paying attention. But if people are paying attention in a way to just be aggressive and nasty and mean and just erupt into this awful kind of way, then bad things happen. So part of it is interesting just to engage.
But I wonder if some of that is almost better than being disenfranchised by the entire process. Because that's pretty much what Obama ran on. Obama ran on this demographic that was never going to come out and vote, but he sort of gathered them up and said, I mean, he was more of an established guy, but more conventional politics, not like the people we have running right now, but he kind of said, I'm going to give you something different. This is change. He sold them something, whether he delivered on it or not. And you're right. There weren't people protesting in the streets. We didn't have these, you know, we didn't have tear gas at Trump rallies. We didn't have anything along those lines. So I wonder if, as someone who's running this year, if you welcome that, or if you would have been better off in a more sort of conventional political election year.
I think to be true to this business, you always have to welcome more people being involved.
Yeah.
That's the point. Right? I mean, that's the whole idea. So you can't always get it the way you want it, right? I mean, be careful what you wish for. If you want people to participate, you don't get to choose how they participate.
You're right.
If you do it my way, then I'm just as bad. You know, so you have to have that. You have to want everybody engaged. When Barack Obama ran, he brought in millions of new people, and people, certainly people of color who felt disenfranchised and worse, felt that they had an opportunity and there was hope, and that was they could believe. what happened in many cases is people engaged because of the moment, because of the person, and then disengaged soon afterwards. Some people felt, well, he's not really focused on the stuff I want them to focus on. Some people say he became part of the establishment. But the establishment is the country. He's running the country, so he has to do it within certain parameters. That will happen with whoever wins this time around, too. What was interesting is even Barack Obama voters disappeared the following year, the year after that, the year after that. So now we're here, here again, we have people coming out. What did change, though, is you have Hillary Clinton running. And she's winning state after state in the South and people where there's large minority populations. Because that vote that emerged is now establishment votes, even though it's a minority vote, which is wonderful, right? So you have these people who are deciding elections who before were disenfranchised. So the Southern minority vote is deciding, or could decide, and probably will decide who becomes the next president of the United States if Hillary were to win.
Right.
That's incredible. So that means it worked.
Right.
On the other hand, when you have so many people who are using this as a vehicle to express their hate and anger and frustration, when they start taking it out physically, when all of a sudden it becomes okay to belittle, to demean. In a sense, that's the marketplace of ideas, right? So if that's really what we all feel, then I suppose you could say, well, that's a good thing. It becomes a good thing if the rest of us say, well, wait a second. Okay, we started the discussion being mean and nasty and a bully. But now that everyone's paying attention, let's have a real conversation. Let's move to a place where we're talking about how it really works. Now that you know what a caucus is, how do you actually impact and participate in a way that could affect issues that are important to you?
Well, as far as the presidential race, I don't know if we have the pegs in place, the people in place to do that, to say, okay, now that I have all of your attention, let's have an intelligent conversation. Or maybe intelligent is the wrong word, but like let's have a progressive conversation. Let's have like a meaningful conversation, because it's, I mean, and this is why we watch, because it's become reality TV on both sides, and not everything is nasty. And I think it's good and it's bad. Now, add to that the fact that I'm obsessed with House of Cards, that in my warped mind, I think politics works like that, or like The Good Wife. I sometimes make reference, and I don't know if I'm making reference to Kevin Spacey or to something Bernie Sanders did, because I'm all over the place. Life is mixing with reality, which is mixing with television.
Life is getting closer to House of Cards than the other way around. So that's,
do you watch?
I've watched on occasion. I tend to try not to watch shows that are very close to my world.
Okay.
But my wife watches, and my friends watch, and other people I know watch, and
then do they ask you a million questions?
They do.
As if you know, as if you're sitting in the White House, and you know exactly what Robin Wright is going to do next. Right.
But it is a moment where I think the whole idea that everyone's tuning in is really wonderful. You know, I go and I give speeches. I give speeches to 200 people, and I say, I could say, I have all these wonderful things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the things I'm doing locally, about infrastructure and roads, and you know what, we have to improve our bus system, and we have to create a stronger middle class. And you know, I see people kind of turning away, and and he's a nice guy. I say, oh, but by the way, Donald Trump said today, and all of a sudden people perk up. And now they're listening again. Okay. And I say, Bernie Sanders did this, and he's arguing a bit this with Hillary, and Hillary, my God, there's this with the emails, and all of a sudden people are like, wow, what's going on?
Why?
Well, that's a good question. I think there's a lot of different reasons, but I think the larger issue is that there's this great disconnect with power and government because it doesn't seem to be working. It doesn't seem to be working because we came through this great period of economic malaise and distress. And so people aren't having the success that they had hoped, and so their wages are stagnant. Then we get into the statistical stuff, and that gets boring again. But the people don't want to talk about wages and stagnation in the economy. What they want to talk about is the people who are expressing it in terms of being vulgar or offensive, or even. And Bernie, by the way, Bernie's expressing this stuff in a positive kind of, the angel on the shoulder, and you have Donald Trump expressing it in this negative with the devil on your shoulder. Right. And the irony is they seem to be two different sides of the same coin, and so people are interested because something's not going right, and people are expressing frustration, and they don't know how to do it. They don't have access to do it. No one's listening to them. Right. They feel that no one's listening to them. And here these guys are being just mean and aggressive and smart to some extent, and so I want to hear what they're going to say.
People cannot get enough of it, right? More people are tuning in this year to every single event that either of these candidates have, and yet no one in any election year has ever had a higher disapproval rating of both of them. Of both of them. Right. It's mind-boggling to me.
The alternative is a socialist.
Yes, that must be what it is. The country doesn't know what they want.
Who has better stats than both of the others? In other words, the socialist is still ahead. nationally. He's the head of the businessman, and the president, the Secretary of State.
How do you wrap your head around that? I mean, I turn on the TV, and all of a sudden, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are going to have a debate. Maybe all the rules have sort of been. And not that I care. Right. I think it's refreshing, and I think it's wonderful. Right. But what you said is true. If something good comes out of this, to shuffle the deck and throw everything up in the air and say, screw the establishment just for the hell of screwing the establishment, what does that do? So now here you come along, right, and you have these big ideas, and you've done wonderful things, and you want to push, your projects along, and some of the issues you have. Do you find that there are impasses along the way now because the country is sort of putting their hands up a little bit, like, well, I'm not sort of following along with whatever anyone says anymore because that's not how life works?
On the one hand, I'm optimistic. I mean, the negative side of this is that this is the environment that usually leads to tyranny and all sorts of terrible things, and
Game of Thrones,
revolution.
This guy's all about tea.
Right. I mean, the way you get and I'm not going to go into all these terrible people in history, but the way that happens is when somebody steps in, and it starts out that they're expressing other people's frustration, and then they take power and they abuse power, and it becomes real dangerous to disagree with them. Historically, that happens in other parts of the world, and bad things happen. World wars, thousands of people die. It's terrible. I don't think that's going to happen here, but that's the environment that leads to these things historically. I think because our country is different, and that we are America, and there is this sense of wisdom that these people have when we really think things through collectively. I mean, there's something is special and great and historic and unusual about America, because we are everybody, and everybody comes here, and when we brainstorm and pool ourselves together, we do become something special. Right. And so I have to believe that at some point, this dialogue that you started by discussing, that, well, you now know what a caucus is, you're now following it, having more people engaged eventually will allow me, should I go to Congress, to have a conversation with someone on the other side and say, okay, we've been through this pretty intense moment. Now, I guess, can we talk again? Because we weren't allowed to talk. Congressmen aren't allowed to. If you're a right-wing congressman, you're not allowed to talk to a left-wing congressman, because it's now good versus evil on both sides. Right. And so if you're even seen in the same room, if you sit at the same table, you've somehow committed some sin, some terrible, terrible sin. That's not how it always was. We fight like we're here and here. But the reality is, Democrats and Republicans are usually here and here. Right. But we've been spreading. Other countries, you're here and here, and when the loser actually kills the winner. I mean, the winner kills the loser. I mean, that's how it works. Here, we just, we kind of dust ourselves off. We wait 4 years, and then we come out swinging again.
And that's it.
But I think something needed to happen. It was not working. It's not sustainable. This anger and this viciousness in Congress, where we're shutting down Congress. People are running for Congress saying, if I win, I promise to shut down Congress. I promise to do nothing.
I mean,
that's my platform. You have a guy running for president that says, if I win, I will disenfranchise races, cultures, religions. I will divide everybody in the country, and I will decide who's good and who's bad, who wins and who loses. That's what I'm going to... This is incredible. Right. So when people are running for office saying that my job is to shut down government, to do nothing, Congress has not passed a single law or something. It's the biggest do-nothing Congress in American history. That has to end. Yeah. And so it can only end if something happens, and this is what's happening. All these people are kind of bubbling this up. We can't sustain this until November. Can you imagine? Right now, you're watching every day. Can you watch every day until November?
I want to say no, but I have to tell you this. I watch Morning Joe in the morning.
Yeah, I do.
My friends Joe and Mika. Those guys are able to put on 3 hours of programming based on 5 minutes of a conversation we had. Every single day they say the same thing every day. Can we sustain this conversation for the next 4 or 5 months? Can we do it? Meanwhile, they've been doing it because every day, all of a sudden you think there's nothing else to talk about, and he clinches the nomination, or Bernie is on whatever, Colbert, and says something funny, or whatever it is. It's just sort of taken over. But I want to just talk about you for a second, because normally, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like I said, up until this year, politics was not my thing. Right. It was something I kind of read about, I kind of followed, and then maybe during the election year, I followed a little more closely. Right. But this year, it's a little more interesting to me, and I'm understanding what issues are, and I'm picking out the issues that I think are really important, especially now that I have kids, like things like Common Core. I finally figured out what that was. Okay. Or like what you're talking about, the Independence Project. My parents are getting older, my grandparents, like the whole 9 yards. Right. Talk about one, or pick an issue that you really firmly believe in, that you really want to push all the way through.
Okay, so...
and you're not offended that I just put my hair in a higher ponytail? No. I could easily do the same thing to you. I'm not sure that's your thing.
No.
Okay, I just wanted to know. I'm going to put my phone on vibrate because someone's been trying to get in touch with me and probably will tell me that your hair looks great.
So, the issue the focus, the way I'm approaching Congress is that it really is about giving people confidence that government can work. That and all of us make mistakes, and we say things from time to time, and none of us are perfect. And,
right.
And one of the things that's happening at the national level is you could be mostly imperfect and still have success. I mean, looking at the two main candidates that are running and
right.
with all their imperfections. At the local level, we don't have that good fortune. You say the slightest thing wrong, and you're all sorts of bad things happen.
Not even wrong, just slightly
right.
not right.
Not slightly not right, or misinterpreted, or out of context.
And that's it.
So my focus is to say, let's look at what we do locally. How do we help people believe that the folks that we're electing are actually representing us and doing good, and they're there to help, and that we're paying our taxes and they're not wasting it, and these people are decent people, and I can feel good about the leaders in my community, and they're not there. They're not some far distant place. They're actually my neighbor.
Right.
And so my focus is, how do I create that connection? So when I was in local government, I ran a town called Town of North Hempstead. It's a town of 240,000 people, the 5th largest town in the United States of America.
Is it really?
It is.
Say that again?
It's the 5th largest town by population in the United States of America. Now we're sitting here in Manhattan, right? And so
wow.
This dwarfs everything, right? So I go into part of my district is in Queens, and of course Queens is huge. But in terms of suburban America, 40,000 people is pretty big. And so we're diverse, and we have wealth, and we have poverty, and we have economic challenges, and we have beautiful landscapes and vistas and water, and it's a wonderful place. And so what I see, though, is that infrastructure is incredibly expensive. Schools are finding it hard to sustain the cost of educating our children, and we're pitting teachers against policemen, against the middle class, against the wealthy, against Wall Street, and there's a significant number of people who live in my town who work in Wall Street. So my focus is, how do you make sure that the federal dollars come back and help us sustain our community? Hillary Clinton was going to create legislation years ago called SCORE, and it was about recognizing that little tiny villages and suburban communities and towns and counties and even cities can't handle the cost of fixing everything. You have bays that touch all sorts of different communities. You have water that we drink that's in aquifers underground. We all breathe the same air.
Yeah.
We all have to deal with the same airports and the danger, and we all have the same external threats from our country. So we need to be able to bring together some type of larger macro approach that allows dollars to come in and us to spend those dollars in ways that make sense, so that we're dealing with sewers. And it's not very interesting. I look at the count. Who wants to talk about sewer pipes that are currently this wide? They have to be this wide.
Well, if you look at this is the third thing, was sewers. So
see, there you go.
I wanted it. Well,
and I was number 2 to begin with, so that's number 3. That's where we're actually, that's really high on the list.
Gosh.
So I looked at seniors. I looked at how people in our country are aging. They're getting older, and local communities are struggling with how do we help our seniors. And I'm in government, and people come to me who are 70 and saying, how do I help my parents who are 93 or 95 and will live to be 104? How do we deal with that? And nobody really knew the answer. And so and yet we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on senior programs. In my town, the villages have them, the towns, the city, the county, the state, the federal government, United Way. Everybody has senior programs, but no one knows how to access them all. So what I did is, let's create a central location. You call 311. I brought 311 to my town. You call 311, you get our system, you say you're 60 years or older, you get a social worker on the phone within 24 hours. What's your problem? I feel depressed. My husband died, a year ago today, and so I'm not eating. I feel sick, but I don't want to get a doctor. If I call my son, they're going to put me in a home.
Yes.
And so they don't do anything, and they sit in the dark. And we say, you know what? We're going to stop by, and we're going to bring. We have a visiting nurse program. We have a visiting social worker program. We created a handyman program. We're going to fix your leaky faucet.
Love it.
We're going to come knock on your door because no one's picked up your newspaper in 5 days, and we're a little concerned about you. And your neighbor, who's part of our program too, is going to come and speak to you every day for a few days. We're going to do a Skype Zumba class where you get on your computer. And if you don't know how to use a computer, we're going to sit there and teach you how to use a computer, because you can't talk to your grandkids if you don't get on the computer.
Right.
And so we just create this network where all you do is just tell us what you're thinking. We'll figure out what your problem is with you. Yeah. Not for you, but with you. And we'll make the follow-up phone call. We're going to call United Way and say, you know what, there's a program that you have that would be perfect for this person. We're going to call the rabbi or your priest who you keep on telling us about, but for some reason you won't call. We'll make the call. And then we'll call 3 days later to make sure that you actually connected. And so we then added transportation, taxi rides to supermarkets, and taxi rides to medical visits. And I created this program where I took all the taxi companies were really hurting because the economy was terrible.
Right.
So I went up to the taxi company. I said, listen, how much would you charge me to hire all your cabs from 11 to 3? What are you talking about? I said, you have 6 cabs in. I'm hired. 11 to 3. Just give me a price I want. Okay, you got them. I said, okay, so every Thursday, people from Great Neck are going to call 311. They're going to want to ride to the supermarket. You just pick them up, you take them. and we're paying you by the hours. And Thursdays, Fridays it's going to be Mineola, Saturdays it's going to be Port Washington, whatever it is. And then we added medical visits for a little bit of a cost because that was too expensive. And then we found out the people in New Hyde Park didn't like the supermarket we were taking them to. They're complaining about my program. Saying, what's wrong with the supermarket? It's a beautiful supermarket. Yeah. It's huge. It's clean. It doesn't have any benches outside. It doesn't have any benches. What do you mean, supermarket?
Waiting for the taxis to come pick them up?
They want to come. Well, it's more than that. It's social. They all sit together. Because when the taxis come, we have the whole community coming to the supermarket the same day. Remember, Thursdays is Great Neck, Fridays is Mineola, Saturdays. So they come and they finish shopping at 1, but they call the taxi at 3. They sit there outside.
And they kibitz. I
love
us.
So we called up the supermarket and said, can you put 4 benches out there? Because we got 100 seniors coming every Thursday.
Right.
Absolutely. And now they love the program.
That's great,
So it's a wonderful program.
That's really great. What's it called?
It's called Project Independence.
Okay.
And we got $1 million from the federal government and Senator
So that's
Gillibrand.
what you're talking about, is using that kind of money for things that you want to push forward.
Right. So so we went to Congress and said, it costs a lot of money to put our seniors, our aging folks in nursing homes, and with Social Security and all this and SSI, what if they live in their homes longer with dignity and independence and in a way that helps them navigate their own community with those resources that are already there.
Right.
And we'll fill some gaps, but it's primarily there. What can we get from the federal government to make this program work? Because if we do this, the federal government will save hundreds of millions of dollars if this becomes a national program.
Yeah.
And so the federal government, Senator Gillibrand and Senator Clinton before that, ultimately got me $1 million to invest in this program. We had the visiting nurses and visiting dental vans and all this other stuff. And by the way, after the first 2 years, we had 25,000 seniors using our rides. So we're talking about a significant number of people. We're saving millions of dollars in terms of what costs the federal government and then the state government. And so this is about using Washington, not to come here and tell us what to do, but to use your resources. Give us some parameters. Make sure we're doing it in an appropriate way. Make sure that we're doing it in a way that if you have some rules, that's fine.
Yeah.
And if we don't like the rules, you can talk to the congressman and say, change the rules. Make them work. Make them wise. Make them something.
Right.
But when it's about partnering with different levels of government. So we do the same thing with recycling, with cleaning our water, with virtually everything we do locally. It's not you run for Congress, people are like, well, I want to talk about these large, I want to talk about Donald Trump.
Sure.
But this is about how we're going to affect people's lives. And on a one-on-one basis, this is really what's important.
Sure.
So is the landfill in my community leaching into the aquifer, and am I drinking toxic water?
Right.
You look out in Detroit, people are drinking lead.
Yes,
it's
in
important.
Florida, in some places in New Jersey.
Some places in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Usually the poorer districts. And so when people aren't focused on how your infrastructure works, it's nice that you stand up and give a speech about how you're going to fix the world and tell people what's wrong with their lives. It's a lot harder to tell people, okay, why don't you and you and you and the guy who's gonna put in the pipe and the person who's gonna pay for it, why don't we all sit down for an hour and figure out how to make your sewage work? Because you know what, it really smells here and it's not working very well.
And that's the problem. Not to bring it back to a national conversation, but that's the problem with some of these candidates. They don't want to have the conversation. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Well, how are you going to do it? Well, don't worry about it. Well, it's going to be
done.
Right.
I don't need an answer. Just trust me.
Just trust me. It's going to happen. Right. Putin and I are BFFs. It's all going to be good. But and I think that's where the frustration lies with a lot of people. Is it's not nearly as sexy a conversation as I'm going to do this. I'm going to end poverty. I'm going to do. That's sexy. Telling you how to do it is not nearly as sexy, but I think what you're doing is wonderful. That you're actually showing that it's possible to do this on a smaller level and then see where it goes.
And of course, I'm a core Democrat. I believe in the democratic values. I believe in the core issues. I support choice and Planned Parenthood, and I agree with the DREAM Act. And I think that we have to be aware in Congress of these important national issues. We need to protect our community. We need to give people confidence that we're aware of them at the congressional level.
Right.
But again, if you can't tie your local world with what's going on nationally, I think we lose people, and that's what's happening. People are losing confidence that these people are representing them, that your representative is becoming them. And a representative is just that. They're an extension of who you are. When somebody goes to the city council or the assembly or Congress for you, they're standing there in your shoes.
Yep.
They're there for you. They're your representative. They are an extension of who you are.
Right.
And you are responsible for who goes there on your behalf. And if they're doing a bad job, that means you're doing a bad job. And that's you as a citizen. That's me as a citizen.
Right.
And that, to me, is the study of government and the philosophy behind it, the practical application of the whole thing that created our country, the enlightened political philosophy. And so that's what, to me, becomes really interesting. And if you tell people that, you could yell at me all you want, and a lot of people yell at me. I stand on the stage, and they're like, you should have done this, you should do that, and people are angry. at the end of the day, it's on you. It's on us.
Yeah.
This is representative democracy. You don't like who's there. Someone's doing something wrong, then you fail, and you better get more involved and watch it and learn it and participate and make a difference.
This doesn't seem like an easy job. There's no part of anything you're saying that's like, I'm going to wake up today, I'm going to do the following 3 things. By the time I go to sleep tonight, the following 3 things will be done.
Right.
To me, it is so incredibly frustrating to have to, dive headfirst across party lines to try to get things done and to try to get people in a room together and have the conversation. And there's tons of red tape and there's politics and politics and politics. And then for something, why would you want to go through all that? You seem like a really healthy, smart, very good-looking, well-dressed guy with a full head of hair. I'm sure there are 1,000 things out there you could be doing. Why politics?
I guess it's my sport, or it's my passion, whatever it is. It's something that one finds oneself in, or maybe it finds me. I started at a very young age in a very activist type of environment. I spoke to a bunch of students at Hofstra University, the honor students. I was part of this honors program, so I was speaking to their graduating class, and I said, you're all here, you're all political science students. I said, so what's the most important thing you need to know as a political science student? I said, when I drive down the street and I see a branch that's fallen from a tree in the street, I say, just like the rest of us, somebody should get that out of the way. It's dangerous. And then I realized that somebody is me. And then I think, well, actually it was me. I was the town supervisor. That was actually my job. But philosophically speaking, it was, we all do that. We see something wrong and we say somebody should do something about it. And so I'm one of those people who have, for whatever reason, believe that any one of us has not only the ability but the responsibility of doing something about it. And so this is what I do. And I've grown comfortable doing it, and it is hard, but it's no harder than any other thing that anybody else does that they do. Wherever you find yourself in life, to succeed, to make a difference, to have an effect, it's always hard.
Right.
I mean, because there's always other people doing it too, and there's always other people disagreeing with you. And there's other people that are becoming angry or jealous or mean or whatever, and so I just happen to pick the field that it's very public and people watch it on I'll say they watch it on social media, they watch it everywhere. Of course, now you're doing it when you watch it on social media. So it's, you expose yourself to other people's passions and however they express them. But that really is, in a sense, where it comes down to. It's, if I have the ability to do something about what's going on in the world, I'll tell you that another story, I suppose. When I was younger in high school, I was very much engaged in the anti-nuclear movement. I was involved in energy issues, and this is in the 80s.
Just say, you wore bell bottoms?
I did not wear bell bottoms.
Okay, fine.
So I was.
I like you again. Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely did not wear bell bottoms. I probably did wear corduroys.
That's okay. We all went through a corduroy phase.
And I was on my football team, I was going to play, and I was in every group, but I was going around giving speeches about nuclear power, and there's no way to spend fuel rods, it's not going to work, it's dangerous, whatever. And giving speeches in my lunchroom and collecting money and writing a newspaper, and I was going on protests, and my background was civil disobedience, and I was skipping school quite extensively and didn't really care about the future in terms of myself. And a teacher comes up to me and says, you're really, you're such a moron. And I was like, well, thank you. It's the first time I've been. Says, here you are criticizing all these leaders, and you're articulate, and you're able to understand what they're doing wrong, and you convince other people, because all these people who don't give a crap about politics, they sit in the lunchroom and listen to you talk about it, and then you go out and play football, and it just doesn't make sense. So if you have this ability, why aren't you out there going to college, become a lawyer, become a professional, get involved in politics, decide, you be the person that makes the rules. Do
something about it.
Right, be one of the people that are making the decisions instead of just standing there criticizing. And that was like one of those epiphany moments. So I literally walked down to the guidance counselor, and I said, okay, I'm going to apply for college. What do I do? And I applied to 2 schools. I got into them. I picked one. I went to college, and next thing you know, I'm doing well. And so that's partially been a driving force. And here I am all these years later. And I started out losing virtually every race I was involved with. And I picked I don't say I picked the losers. I picked people who didn't win because they stood for something. And they were trying to say something that was important it had to be said.
Right.
And eventually the world shifted. And I was, very locally, I was part of that shift where I live. And the country shifted as well, and we had success. And we started winning races. And I started winning races. And now here I am, the establishment candidate, who still has less money than all my opponents because they're more establishment than I am. At least their families with all the money are.
Sure.
And so, which is actually nice to be back, to have to be forced to go into the grassroots approach to politics again. And so it really comes down to having a history where, if I have the ability to move the branch out of the street, then instead of waiting for someone else to do it, maybe I don't necessarily do it myself, but I know how to get it done. I call the right person, because it's dangerous to go on the street and pull a branch out.
Right.
The question is not just wanting to do it, but knowing how to do it. And since I figured that out, Congress is open. Maybe I should take this to another level and see if I can make a difference.
And what's the big picture 5 years from now, after you win this election?
People always ask me, am I going to be senator? My daughter says, are you going to be president? And the answer, of course, is no. But I don't have a destination in terms of where I need to end up in this business. My direction is that way, wherever it takes me. I could be the manager, the official, the elected official. I could be the coach. I could be the dad. I could be I could be any single position where life takes me, and I will try to do it well. I don't have to achieve this office or that office. I believe I will be in the mix, making a difference in this field of business, politics, and government. But I don't know which role I'll play. I don't need to know, because when you try to pick that role, it doesn't really work out. It's like trying to figure out 10 years before you get married who you're going to marry, I guess. You gotta let life take its course and just have enough confidence that you're going to get there.
You're married?
I'm married.
You have kids?
I have 3 kids.
How old?
20, 16, 2 boys, and a 10-year-old girl.
Wow.
Yeah.
And one of the boys plays football?
Well, both of them played football. They were both their school quarterbacks, and my son, my junior, is now the star quarterback for his team in Great Neck. And
nice.
My daughter is a little basketball star and a dancer and all the things little girls are. And
I love it.
And so it's great.
Do you worry about all the football stuff going on right now?
It's a concern, but I think I do the same thing politically. You put yourself in the mix, you take your hits, and you have to have confidence that you're going to be okay. My
or
oldest
is that
son,
your way of saying, I don't think he's good enough to play at any other level, so I don't need to talk to him about concussion?
My oldest son, by the way, my boys play basketball, baseball,
and I'm just
varsity.
kidding. Your kids are probably like the next Tom Brady.
They're not. They're great. They have a great success. They're enjoying it, and that's what sports at the high school level is supposed to be.
Yeah.
My son's playing club baseball in college. I'm sure my middle son, when he goes to college, will pick some club sport, one of the sports that he plays as well. If they were meant to be a professional athlete, then they would have been on track to do that. They're meant to have a successful, positive life, and being part of sports is something they enjoy, and it's teamwork, and it helps them grow, and it toughens them up a little bit. And if they get hurt, you got to dust yourself off and get back up and move on.
Do you want them to go into politics?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, we want them to do whatever they want to do,
Sure.
But this is a hard business. You have to. They have to find their path, and I don't know. I don't think they know what it is. I certainly don't know what it is. If they evolved into this area, then God bless them. That would be great. But people have to find find themselves, and then, because anything you do is going to be hard. So make sure you enjoy it.
You have to.
Make sure you enjoy it.
Are you having a good time at least? I know this is a stressful
time
as we pull into what will be like the big race, but
I have a good time with this.
You do.
I don't mind it, and the hits, and there's a lot of negativity in this field, and
right.
I'm running against friends of mine, people that I'm running in a primary, so I'm running against people that I've supported and who have supported me, some who I've brought into the business, some who I've grown in the business with, in the field and in politics with. So that's hard, but again, that's you play a game of sports. The guy on the other side could be your best friend. You still got to knock him down if he has the ball in his hand. It's tough, like anything else is tough, and I enjoy the intensity, the passion, the challenge, the difficulty. This is hard. It was easy. What's the point? I don't think I could do this if I didn't thrive on all those things. Although I, like anybody else, goes home and what the heck are we doing?
What the heck's going on?
Boy, would I love to just go away and sit on a beach somewhere.
Come back, let it all be solved. Can you have any idea how this national race is going to turn out?
I'd be guessing. I think, again, my ultimate sense is that the people will come around. I believe in the people. I appreciate that they make mistakes, and so every once in a while, we collectively don't do the right thing, but I think generally we get it. And if we don't, we're not so off that we can't fix it. I think ultimately I see Hillary Clinton, who a lot of people are really frustrated with, but I think she has a skill set and a history that I think is able to navigate the minefields of government going forward, and I think she has a sufficient basis to win. Although she's got a lot of issues that really hurt, and an inability to connect with people like her husband did, and one-on-one, and I've met her, and I've worked with her, and one-on-one, she's quite a compelling personality, and
she's just not a good campaigner. She's
not a good campaigner.
She's a great candidate. She's not a good campaigner.
She's incredibly smart, and she really does understand how things work, but the little nuances of how to communicate and how to change course on an issue, and how to engage people and give people comfort is missing, or certainly missing, or it's not as far along as it should be. Whereas the other, you have Donald Trump is the opposite. He can engage people in seconds and have no idea what he's talking about, and it doesn't matter. It's like, I have no idea. I don't even know the person you're talking about, but I would bomb him if he doesn't do the right thing. Well, it's a real country we're talking about, Mr. Trump, and this
he's
is not
like
one of those.
Korea, whatever it is.
Yeah,
right.
Well, give them a nuclear bomb. Let them bomb each other. It's like, no. We can't have countries dropping nuclear bombs on each other. South and North Korea, they're actually real countries. Right. This is, but I think in the end it'll prevail. And although, either way, and if it doesn't, hopefully, I'm hoping I'm there to try to help stem the tide if bad things are happening, and move forward if good things are happening, and either way try to make a difference.
John Kamen, this is such a great conversation for me. I am so much more enlightened, and I feel so much better about some of these issues, and you're right, I never gave any thought before to some of the smaller races, and now because I live in New York City, and I feel like everything's a big race, but there are real people that are going through real things, and not that North Hempstead is a small place, but still, it's wonderful to have you here and to explain it all to me, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to see how this turns out. I'm going to call you every single day. I'm going to text you and tweet you and email you every day. I'm going to Facebook message you, and I'm going to Instagram you every single day.
All right, Lance is going to get right back on that.
Lance is going to get right back on that every day. I can't wait.
He's going to tell me.
This is the guy right here running for Congress. Is it in North Hempstead?
Well, it's North Hempstead. It's actually, the district goes out to Suffolk County. It's Huntington and Smithtown. It's North Hempstead, which is Port Washington and Great Neck, and Manhasset and Noy Park, and Plainview, and Syosset and Jericho. Then it comes to the Queens and the Douglas and the Little Neck and Whitestone. And
remember that time I asked him a question about North Hempstead? Remember that time when he told me all the different towns that he knew in his head? You're very engaging and you're very funny, and I wish you nothing but the best and continued success.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I loved it. Look at me. I can be a politician now. Bye. I just have to go on that one.